Hi, I'm Sam, and behind me you can see I have an Alpine A110 today. So let's have a little look around the car and go for a drive, and I'll give you my thoughts. So this is the Legend version, which is kind of like the comfort version. It has these wheels. This is in a lovely dark blue and then a brown sort of interior. When I first got the car, I couldn't work out how to open the boots. Now it has two, it has one at the front and one at the back, and you've got to unlock it, and then there's a button here, and then we have the little one at the back. There's sort of quite a lot of space-ish down there, not tons, but you can get some in there. And then trying to work out the front, we'll have a little look into the interior. As you can see, we've got heated seats, we've got these sort of comfort seats, which are okay. For me, they're a bit wide, they're not that supportive. And then we have all of these, part of the Legend pack is all of these bits of carbon interior trim, which actually look quite nice. I think the spec of this car is really, really quite good. Then we have this lever here. Have a look around. And this is the front. Now, I think there's a sort of deceptively large amount of space in here. It's quite deep this direction. It is not a large boot, but I think you could probably just about get enough for two people to go away for a bit. You've got to pack light, you've got to use the soft bags or have bags that are the right sort of size. But let's get in the car and go for a drive. When you get in and you have a look around, you do notice a couple of sort of Renault buttons here and there, but overall, I think when you look at the price of the car, this in particular feels nice. I like all the carbon here. I think the stitching on the doors is nice. A bit of the exterior colour on the interior. And then, because we don't have a glove box here, but we do have one here, which is kind of fun. A little bit of space behind the seats, more speakers. You can see out the back. We've got these paddles, not the best of paddles, but I think all this car is about the driving experience. So, what is it like to drive? The first thing you notice when you get in the car, obviously, is the steering wheel and your environment. The buttons a little bit weird on the steering wheel and stuff. They're very sort of Renault, but I guess for the money of this car, £50,000, it's a lot of money, but they've spent a lot of money on making it light. And straight away, whether it's the calibration of the steering wheel and stuff like that, it feels light. Like, just maneuvering around, it's quite a small car, it's got quite a small footprint, and you notice that driving everywhere, even just round town, getting past other cars, whatever. It's not such a problem because you've got that narrow width. The infotainment system, it took me a few minutes, like really quite a few, after getting in the car to try to work out how everything works. Now, yeah, okay, once you get used to it, it's not so bad, but I don't like how pretty much everything is on this display here, and it's a bit rubbish. It doesn't have CarPlay. Cruise control is activated by a switch in the middle that sets either cruise control or a speed limiter, and then off you go. The engine note in normal sort of mode, it's a 4-cylinder, turbocharged engine, 250 horsepower, it's sort of 1,100 kilos, so it's quite good performance amount. And I think my driving so far, that's just a really good amount. It feels quick. It's not massively quick off the line. It takes a bit of time for sort of the revs to build and the boost to come in. But once you're in the power band, it feels really quite quick. And it does make you think, do you need any more? I'm actually going down just over some quite bumpy bits of road, and it flows quite nicely. Now we're going to keep going for a bit, try and find a good section of road. I'm going to take some pictures and put my foot down a little bit. Driving wise, what are your interactions with the car? You've got the steering wheel, feels relatively light, loads up nicely, feels pretty good actually. Then we've got these paddles. The paddles, they're all right. They're all right. Not amazing, not bad, kind of okay. They're fixed, which takes a little bit of getting used to. I'm used to paddles that move with the steering wheel. The steering rack itself, you don't need much lock to turn, so it's quite a quick rack, and that means you're not too far away from the paddles. I'll see in more sort of spirited driving whether it starts to annoy me, or I think what happens is you just get used to it. You move your hand and do the paddles. But in reality, on a, let's say, British B road, you're not changing gear that much. You're kind of almost you're changing gear for fun rather than because of a necessity. And people say you don't miss a manual gearbox. I think I always miss a manual gearbox, but it is quite fun. And the difference between driving with a manual and an auto is I find personally I chase pace a bit more rather than, because that's the way you get a bit more involvement out, you go a bit faster, the gear change becomes less of a thing. It's more of just pulling a gear and cracking on. As soon as you're getting onto a decent-ish bit of road, the first thing you do is you press this sport button. The whole dials in front change, but the engine note changes, you get a few more pops and bangs, everything seems a bit more visceral, and I'd say that's a must, sport mode. Another thing I would do is press the D, you press it twice or once, and it goes into manual mode. If you just pull a paddle, it resets quite quickly, which is not the end of the world, but right, let's see what it's like. Gearbox, what's that like? Well, it's pretty responsive. It's not bad, it's pretty good. Blips nicely, you get a good like boom when you change gear. Oh, massive puddle, let's avoid that. A friend of mine has got one of these, and he was saying, it's like the thing you'll notice between driving this and like pretty much anything else modern is you can be flat out. Not quite flat out because it's very capable, but down a country road you can give it some beans. I'm left foot braking at the moment because you've got two pedals, so why not? I'd love to take this. I'd love to try one of these on track. Is it turning? Oh, it feels nice. I think the thing about this being lightweight is, oh, squirrel. Fucking bit of road. Oh, it just feels nimble. It just does the things. I'd love to be rowing my own gears, but okay. I don't think the cost worked out for them to build a gearbox for this car, but it's pretty fun. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. What's the suspension like? At this speed, so 40, 50, it flows really nicely. It sort of deals with the bumps quite well. This road has got loads of compressions and dips and rises and stuff like that, and it feels very locked down. Not too stiff. At lower speeds, at sort of town speeds, it's a little bit harsh. If you went over a pothole or something, you get quite a proper like boom boom. It's good fun. I can see why people like this. I need to drive it more. It's kind of wet as well, but actually, even in the wet or damp, it's not intimidating in the slightest. Just the amount of power is not crazy, so you're not spinning up wheels. The amount of the sort of grip level to power, you can have quite a lot of fun without worrying about it too much, you know. I think obviously you'd be sensible, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. In the cabin, what's it like at motorway speeds? It's okay. I would say it's not that refined. It's fine. It's in terms of noise levels. I think you've got to accept with this car that they've tried to make it as light as they can, and because of that, it's not going to have double glazing and all of those things. But that's part of accepting the package, I think. In terms of how would I compare it to, let's say, a Boxster, 4-cylinder Boxster, specifically the engines together, then you end up with a similar sort of engine note, and there's not much to change between the two. If you had a 6-cylinder Boxster, the engine in this is, I would say most of the time it's okay. When you're in sport mode and sort of up and on it, it's quite fun. It's quite sort of gives you something back, but it's nothing like that 6 in terms of the sort of screaming and stuff like that. But this is the trade-off, I guess, with the weight. So the Boxster's another 200 and something kilos, which is a lot, and you do feel it in this car. This car doesn't weigh very much. I don't know really how to describe it though. It's kind of almost like the price bracket of it. It is £50,000-ish sort of starting point, and I think they've done very well for that price. But it doesn't feel like a £100,000 car. It feels like a exceptionally well done. When you look around the interior, it's actually pretty nice, apart from some of the buttons and things. The displays are a bit like that, but I think for the money, spot on. Like it's really quite nice. It looks nice, it feels different. You look at this car from the outside, it's a cool looking car. It's different. It's not your standard Porsche or anything else. It's an Alpine, and you get thumbs up from people on the right road at the right time. It's a lot of fun. I think the rest of the time it's perfectly usable. It's not got tons of luggage space. You can sort of, it's okay, but definitely not a lot. So don't be planning on moving house in it. But other than that, it's fun. It's fun. I like it. I think it's a great additional option to what's out there already. It's something that's a bit different and definitely worth a drive. You've got to drive it somewhere that you can use it though to get that experience. I think you don't get any of the time other than on a really good road. It doesn't elevate itself. That's when it starts to get good, and it's so involving at that point in time. I would love if you could roll your own gears, but this is the situation we're at. The paddles when you're moving fast, it didn't actually bother me because most roads you're not in a hairpin, and they're sort of long enough that you can pull them and use them. Traction is sort of slightly damp today. I've not had one bit of wheel slip at all. Okay, you could say I'm not driving fast enough or whatever, but even just slowing right down and then booting it with ESC off. I couldn't quite work out if there's ESC and TC off. There must be, but I didn't notice the wheels scrabbling or anything. It seems to have really quite good traction and just goes. So it's a car you can push reasonably hard without worrying too much about it. And if you're worried about having a spiky car, this is definitely not that. Fuel consumption, I think on the motorway you get 40-ish. I've averaged 28.5, including like decent amount of spirited driving and some motorway, which is pretty good actually. I would say that's not bad, and a benefit of, you know, everyone keeps banging on about it, but the lighter weight, and that's going to help with consumables as well. So brake pads and things like that, if you were to do some track days and things, it's significantly less than driving a 1,500 kilo car. You're just not taxing anything anywhere near as much. And that wraps it up. What do I think of the A110? I think it's a really cool car. I think personally I would love it with a manual gearbox, but the package for what it is, well worth checking out. It's something that's a bit different, bit unique. Great fun, like really good fun, and just different to the other cars out there. So I'm really glad they make it. I enjoyed my time with it, enjoyed my drive. I wonder if someone can do a kit for a manual. But if it's something that's of interest, go and take it for a hoon. Definitely get it in sport mode, find a good set of back roads and give it some. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.